Welcome to The Route to Revenue, two entrepreneurs sharing the path to curbside cash flow. I'm Ben.
And I'm Mike. We're both founders of two successful recurring revenue businesses in the home services industry. And we've built our companies from startup to profitable and scalable operations.
This is the show for entrepreneurs serious about building sustainable home service businesses. Whether you're starting out, scaling up, or ready to move beyond trading time for money, we share proven strategies for creating predictable monthly revenue streams.
And while our expertise comes from the bin cleaning industry, the systems and principles we discuss work for any recurring revenue home service. Think lawn care, pest control, pool maintenance, and beyond.
Each episode, we break down real-world strategies for customer acquisition, retention, operational efficiency, and building systems that generate consistent income while you step back from daily operations.
Are you ready to transform your home service businesses from a demanding job into a profitable asset? This is The Route to Revenue.
Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of The Route to Revenue. I'm Ben McGee with Green Can Cleaner. I'm here with Mike Walker from Spiffy Bin.
Hey, Ben. How you doing? We've also got Brannon Fowler. Brannon Fowler is the owner of Trash Can Cleaners. He's out of San Antonio, Texas. Welcome, Brannon.
Thanks for having me on today.
Awesome.
We've been looking forward to this, Brannon. We've been talking about this for a while and saying we need to get Brannon on, but it just hasn't worked out. So I'm glad it worked out today.
Well, here we are.
Yeah. So do me a favor, Brannon, and just so their audience kind of knows, I mean, it's not a huge audience. I think there's at least two. We know that. So just kind of take us back to the beginning and tell us what drew you to this industry, and was manufacturing always kind of the goal?
No, the manufacturing wasn't necessarily originally the goal. So our backgrounds are important. Mike actually heard this story a little bit back in Vegas, probably in, 20 or 21? We did the first ever convention.
The first ever trash bin cleaning convention.
And we did it in Vegas, and we told the story a little bit there, but most people don't know it. So me and my partners kind of have a background that just naturally merged into this. I come from the oil and gas industry, building pressure washing systems and cleaning drilling rigs and things like that. I mean, extremely large scale pressure washing jobs, things that most pressure washing companies couldn't even imagine. My partner in the business and his wife, Brannon Brzezowski and Lisa Brzezowski, they're my partners. They, at roughly the same time that I was doing that, they were starting a trucking and diesel mechanic business in the South Texas oil field as well. And Brannon went through the two highest level mechanic schools that exist for Caterpillar, worked all over the world for Cat. I mean, this guy isn't your average mechanic at all. I mean, he worked on 22,000 horsepower ship engines in Germany. There's a crazy story about him working on a Russian pipeline project in Siberia, things that you just haven't heard most people doing. And I ran across the idea of this as the oil field was kind of crashing in 2014, 2015. And it's kind of a whole story in itself, but I had a guy tell me he was doing it in Austin, Texas, at this party I was at. It was actually like a UFC fight. I think it was like one of those big Ronda Rousey fights. That was big pay-per-view event one night. We were at it, and this guy's telling me he's cleaning trash cans in Austin and has all these customers, and he'd only been in business so long. So I'm thinking about it, because at this point in time, I have this pressure washing kind of distributorship type thing. I've got a chemical business where we make biodegradable degreasers and things and other things for drilling and down well stuff in the oil field. And this guy's telling me that he cleans these trash cans, and I'm like, man, what a great idea. I'm like, I could sell him all kind of stuff to support his business, right? And the oil field starts crashing, and then, close to a year goes by, and my business had lost a ton of business just because the drilling rigs is stacked out, and there's nothing really you could do. And I was like, that trash can idea never really went away. And I kept watching San Antonio. It had never been done here before. And I was at the people that are my partner now. I was at their house New Year's Day of 2016, I believe it was.
Okay.
And I was telling Brannon about it, and he's like, how many people do that in San Antonio? I was like, never been done. As far as I can tell, it's never been done. And he's like, huh. And, we had just this background that made sense. And so we thought we would buy equipment and start. And he already had the diesel mechanic side, already had a shop, already had a pretty nice staff in place. I had the pressure washing, the chemical side. We thought chemicals would be a big part of it. When you're on the outside looking in, we're like, surely we're going to have all these degreasers and these cleaners and all this stuff. And as we talked to the other people that were in the industry at the time, we're like, man, I think we can build something better than we can purchase, And so the first point was just to build one for ourselves. And when we looked at what we could buy, we just felt like there was 10 or 15 things that were easy corrections that we could do to make things better and more ergonomical for us and safer for us and things like that. And so we built truck number one. And I think in June of 2016, I think is when we went live with the service and signed up 100 something customers that first month, and we're like, dang, I think we're on to something. And I know that's not everybody's story, but that was our story. And the next
Yeah,
month was the same. The next month was the same. And the next month was the same. And then winter came. And then you guys know it slows way down.
sure.
The new customer acquisition did, but we didn't really lose anybody. And over that period of time, I would say if you could go back to then, I was one of the few people out there that was putting really much of anything on social media. I was putting my routes out there. I was showing the growth that I had at the time. We were running Jobber. I was showing how much our routes were changing. You can probably scroll back in my Facebook today and still see those posts where it's like this month I had this many customers. This month I had that many customers.
Yeah,
And
nice.
at a year we were like, well, probably shy of a year. We're like, this first truck we felt like was going to be too small for the growth that we had. So then we built the second truck, which was our bigger one, which is, what we call the Classic today. And that's part of why we call it the Classic, because it was like our classic bin cleaning truck. And it's the truck we've sold more of than anything.
What was
Right.
your what was your first one? Like a 550 type
We did
deal?
a,
Or?
no, we did a 3,500
Okay.
with
Okay.
325. We were limited at that point in time. There was very few Isuzus on the market, like cab overs, and there was very few trucks that had over 300 gallons of water when you look back to like 2017 and before. And it was one of the things that I looked at. I was like, man, that just doesn't say, from what I knew about pressure washing and consumption rates and all that kind of stuff, I was like, I don't know if that's going to be enough. But we got a really good deal on a Chevy. We had a great relationship with a Chevy guy already through my partner's shop side. And so we just started that way. And, pretty quickly we were in a spot where it seemed like we were always worried about water. And then once
Mhm.
we bumped up and went to that 500-gallon truck at the beginning of the first year, our water issues were gone. And then other things have happened in time, right? The heads have gotten better and more efficient. And so we're using less water that way too, some other things. But anyways,
Well,
that's kind of
in those first couple months, I mean, you're blowing through water because it's your first time going to the
right.
house. So
Yeah.
that was always interesting when we were first starting. I'm like, man, how the hell is this going to happen? And
Yeah.
I keep hearing you're going to do 150 bins and da 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 da. And I'm like, there's no way. But that's because when you're first starting off, obviously you're blowing through a ton of water to get them clean. So
Well, I thought it was funny. We were, our first, we hired a driver day one. And I remember he goes, how many hours am I going to work? I said, well, we're going to guarantee you 30, no matter what. We're just going to be run around and drive the truck and do whatever. But we went all the way, the route was as inefficient as it could be. We weren't trying to be efficient. We were just trying to get the truck in the marketplace. And we'd go from West San Antonio to East San Antonio to North San Antonio to South San Antonio in
yeah,
a single day. Right. And
low
then
hanging
eventually,
fruit. Yeah,
eventually those became our zones. And it's funny because that first week, I think he worked like 35 hours, like 1,200 accounts later, we were still working like 20 or 35 hours a week because
sure.
the routes had got so much more dense and compact. And, we were staying within our zones finally or eventually. And,
Yeah,
it was pretty fun.
that's awesome.
Yeah, that is.
And how long did you run that? I know that's no longer part of your
No,
businesses.
no. So we ran it. We did it for almost 2 years. At the end of 2 years, we had around 1,200 accounts. I think about 75%. I'm thinking back now to
Yeah, for sure.
2018 or 19. I think about 75% of those had signed up for us reoccurring services. We were kind of, I don't know what you guys did, but for us, we were one of the early ones, I think, that promoted high one-time prices to drive people into our reoccurring model. And I think we were probably one of the earlier ones that also did the up to 2 can, pricing
Mm,
model. I know I don't know what you guys do, but that was
yeah,
two things that we did early. I think earlier than most. And over the course of that time, people immediately started coming to us saying like, "Hey, you're posting this stuff on the internet. It looks like your business is growing. Could you tell me about the business?" And I was one of the few people in the country you could call and have I think a pretty legitimate conversation with about the business. And then that conversation would always transition into, well, where'd you get your equipment? Well, we built it. We have a shop. That's what we do already. I mean, the most oddball thing we actually do within our line of services in companies is provide a customer facing service. Everything else is like business to business, like equipment
right.
based, things like that. And then so what kind of led us to getting out of the service piece was we started to have people, especially regionally, and the closer they were to us, the more it became a problem was we had people say, well, I want to buy a unit from you, but how do I know I'm not going to end up competing with you down the road? And so I'd have somebody in San Antonio and I'm like, oh man, the city's 2.3 million people metro. Like we'll never cross paths with each other. Even if we're in the same neighborhoods, it won't matter. You'll be working at, week 2. I'll probably be working at week 1. Like it won't matter. There's too much space for us to be concerned about it. And then finally this one guy came to me and I started having that quite often. I mean, I had a guy that was in a little bit, like 3 hours outside of town in a smaller town. He called me to talk about equipment, would not tell me where he was. Because he was like, if I tell you that there's not one of these here, you could just come drop one in my town. I was like, dude, you don't understand. I could drop 40 of them in San Antonio before I need to even consider leaving San Antonio.
To be fair, though, I had the same nervousness,
Well,
paranoia, whatever you want to call it. So
everybody does, right? They
yeah,
think
for
they
sure.
cornered the market. You just can't comprehend how big and wide open these markets are, especially in these larger cities. But one guy finally came to us and said, what if we are ever competing against each other for the city of San Antonio? Or what if we're ever, competing each other for, there's like maybe 10 waste haulers that service the area, and you have a leg up on me as the manufacturer that I don't have. And he was right. I mean, I had a kind of a moral and ethical dilemma there, and that like could kind of, not that I would, but I had the ability to like be like, yeah, I want that deal. I'm gonna make it known that, that was his
Yeah.
thought process, that he can make it known that the supplier of my equipment is the guy that's bidding against me. Like, why wouldn't the city take the guy that can build the equipment, versus the guy that's got to buy it? And so this young guy finally decided he wanted to buy the service. He offered to buy the service out basically. And so we sold the service at that point in time. And we had already started building enough units and had a bunch of orders. And again, it was the most oddball thing that we did in our line of services. And we realized that there was a real opportunity there. Somebody needed to be the John Deere, the Caterpillar of this space. Our backgrounds come from John Deere and Caterpillar a little bit. So we
Sure.
felt like it was a natural, thing for us to go after. And so we sold the service. It eventually became Triton Cleaning Services in San Antonio. Jordan Williams ended up with it, and Jordan grew it to 4 trucks, I think, in San Antonio, and he did quite a bit of pressure washing as well. And today that service has now been bought. So about a year ago in September, ABC Home and Commercial bought him out for $1 million. So he had got it up to several thousand customers. And I don't think he was the first 7-figure deal in the industry, but he's one of the earliest ones, right? And so that was what became of our original service. So it's still technically out there. It's just
Still
been,
ticking.
it's
That's
just
awesome.
now part of, it went through Triton. Triton grew it. Now it's within ABC Home and Commercial. And ABC Home and Commercial is a $200 million a year services business. Like
Wow.
you call them up and man, they do everything. They'll re-roof your house. They'll send an HVAC guy out. They'll
Garage
send pest
doors,
control.
the whole
They'll do
thing.
anything. And
Soup
one
to
thing that
nuts.
they did not do or even know about was trash can cleaning services, until they ran across Triton and Jordan.
That's
Yeah,
awesome.
I think Jordan kind of built a lot of that by acquisition, which was an interesting deal. I actually picked up a truck that he'd acquired the route, and
Well, yeah, yeah. Right. Yeah, that truck was originally in New Braunfels, Texas, I think is where that truck came
yeah,
from. If it's the one I'm thinking of. Yeah.
yep, yep. So it's in the shop in pieces right now. The engine had a lifter issue. So, but other than that, it's still going strong.
For
Yep.
those unsure, that's not a trash can cleaner's direct problem. That's a Isuzu problem.
No, no,
Full
it's a
disclosure.
Dodge
Hold
chassis
on.
actually.
Hold on a second. You also
Yeah,
said trash can cleaners direct.
Shit.
yeah,
Shoot.
And and
man.
that's one of the reasons I mentioned in this thing rebranding later in this.
We may need to cut that.
No, that's
Yeah,
okay. It's okay.
yeah,
We've got
cut
some
that.
rebranding coming for that exact reason.
Yep,
Gosh.
yep.
Okay.
So, okay.
Write
So
that down.
great
Sorry
job,
about
Mike.
that.
Great
That's
job.
all right.
It wasn't his
So,
fault either. Either of the two companies.
right. Yeah. So what did operating a route actually teach you that you couldn't have learned any other way? What was there?
Well, I mean, I know what it's like to run the route. I mean, I've been on the truck myself. I mean, I've cleaned
Right.
cans. I've cleaned cans with 049 heads, before I had 065 heads, right? Like
Yeah.
I've done, I, I, I've done everything. I've pretty much done everything. I wasn't the guy that was normally out there, but I've acquired customers. I built routes. I built territories. A lot of the strategies that I kind of originally implemented with my business is still a lot of what I kind of teach my customers as a way to like, hey, this model worked for me and it's kind of worked for a lot of other people too. So not to say you can't do this a lot of different ways. There's so many different ways to operate this business, you know? And, but like I can talk deeply about almost every aspect of this business. I mean, I could talk to somebody about what my insurance rates were, right? What they were like for me, but then I can also talk about, because I have so much exposure now with my Facebook group and things like that, like also this is what I saw, but this is also what I'm seeing today, right? With the information that kind of funnels up to me. So, I mean, I'd say that's the key part, right? Is like one of the big differences I think for me is that like I can tell you about things and I can show you facts that make it real. You know, I can show you my face. Like I said, I can show you my Facebook post of my routes. Not very many other people can do that. Some say they do, but then you still don't see it. So
Fair.
Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome. Is it the professional radio operator's turn? Just kidding. Sorry about that faux pas earlier. So let's transition a little bit to our second section, building the equipment. You know, when you decided to go all in, what were you trying to solve? What were you trying to fix? What were you trying to compete with? What was the goal there?
well, the first thing is there just weren't many options. I mean, there was a couple. One, we felt like, you know, didn't have any background in the operating side, which we now had a significant operating background as part of it. And two, nobody else had the mechanical background that we had. And so we felt like from a support perspective, and I personally think that some of the guys that are, you know, my competitors today have had to gotten themselves a lot better in some of those areas because we were the guys that came out that were like, whoa, you can call these guys and they can answer most of your questions. They can actually support you. They understand the equipment.
Right.
You know, we can troubleshoot stuff over the phone and oftentimes solve those issues. You know, and I'm not gonna say that you always can, but you know, pretty commonly, you know, I can get through things with people over the phone or through you know, now with Facebook group videos and things like that, solve
Sure.
problems for people. And I support a lot of people that aren't my customers, you know, like I mean, heck, Mike, if you either want it, well, Ben's got one of our trucks, but secondhand, and then Mike doesn't have any of our equipment, but like if he did,
Yeah.
like I could still speak to a lot of it, you know?
Sure. Yeah.
And so the other thing was like in our early trucks, there were a lot of things that we just felt like didn't make sense on the market. Like if you've looked at some of the earliest stuff out there, like fuel tanks for the pressure washing systems were on the wrong side from the truck fuel. I mean, just little things, you know,
Yeah.
like when we look at that, we're like, man, there's a lot of small improvements we could do. Our hopper, you know, was larger than everybody else's hopper. Like early on, it was like they were putting big water tanks in and small hoppers. I'm like, why would you not pair your water tanks, you know,
Mhm.
up? And,
Right.
you know, one of the stated quotes out there was like, oh, you won't collect all your water. I'm like, well, that's true. What if it rains all day? You're collecting
Yeah.
water you didn't bring with you,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
So
Fair.
like, you know, there was things like that we thought, you know, we could address for our own. And then, you know, our truck, I think, is still by far the cleanest design. You know, when you got the doors all the way down each side, it's a flush. All the controls are flush mounted. You've got the built-in cabinets and stuff, and that was something we wanted to do from like you know, it gave us the most marketing space, and then even some of that, like I think that our four-way pendant controller that controls the, you know, the hydraulic lifter, I think I see less failure in that controller than anybody else's controller because the only thing exposed is the buttons. You know,
Right.
it's a
The 4
waterproof
buttons.
unit, but it's not getting beat up by the sun all day long, you know, in the truck builds and the big trailer builds.
It's not falling off and dragging 25 miles either.
Correct.
Right.
Yeah. And, you know, we buy and sell used stuff too. So I've owned everybody else in the industry stuff. I'm probably the only guy that's done that too. Like I've owned multiple pieces from every other manufacturer probably and taken them and upgraded them and improved them and, you know, can see
Sure.
things they're doing. And so when I see like, you know, like an SB unit come in and then like the remote's worn out, it's like, man, our remote didn't like that usually, you know? And so
Yeah.
oftentimes are replacing those on like a used unit, whereas on ours, it may not be as necessary, you know?
Yeah.
For those
I
that aren't sure, his system, he's got the remote mounted behind aluminum, and then just the 4 buttons are exposed because they got like a little pop out, if you will, almost like an electrical box where you pop open that type of thing and it sticks through. So
And things like our hose reel in that same cabinet, our hose reel's on the top side of the bed. It's not hanging down by the rear wheel, right? So it's protected from the elements. You're not going to run over a piece of wood and kick it up and wreck your reel because it was hanging under the, you know, the rear tire behind the rear tire of the truck or something. So just, you know, a lot of little things we felt like were improvements. Not everybody agrees. You know, you have some people like, man, this is the best thing since sliced bread. And you have other people that go, no, I like it this other way better. And that's fine. Like you can't satisfy everybody in every aspect.
Nor do you
If
have
you
Well,
to.
try to, you'd,
to a
you'd never accomplish anything.
to a certain extent, I noticed this with my guys, because we've got 3 builds from another manufacturer, and then we've got the one that you built. And whatever the guy starts on is what he's gonna prefer.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
even within the other manufacturer, we've got 3 different chassis,
Right.
and each whatever we start them on is the one that they love, you know?
Their
Which
baby.
just makes me laugh because 'cause I'm like, "You know what? They're all pretty efficient. We've got it dialed in." I don't know that it really makes a difference, but yeah. So, I think that that's a big thing is, the guys that say, "Oh, I love this," or "I hate this." I mean, there's reasons and
Yeah.
obviously, like you're saying, there's reasons that you've done
Well, a
what
lot
you've
of
done.
times as the buyer too, every buyer thinks that
Yep,
they've made the best decision that's ever been made. And
exactly,
nobody can make a better decision than they did. And so
exactly.
like it gets
Yep,
very tribal because somebody if they bought from me, I'm the best thing because they made that decision. If they bought
yep,
from somebody else, that's the
Yeah.
best company because they made that decision.
yep,
Like,
Validation. Yeah. You can
and so
validate
exactly.
yourself.
all I can do is try to support the customer the best I can. And then, pretty often we do get customers that flow back over because they weren't supported. And I would say I've lost I can only think of maybe one that bought from us and didn't continue to come back. So
Mhm.
Right.
whereas me taking in several,
Yeah, that's
from
awesome.
others.
Yeah,
That's
that's
awesome.
awesome. Okay, so tell us about the skid you're building now. It's actually kind of exciting. I think that it gives
Yeah, yeah.
people a chance to get into the
So,
business on a budget.
so first of all, one of the things. So early on, I tried to stay with trucks. I just felt like, for me, I felt like trucks were the way to go. If the guy was going to truly make it, like a truck was the way to go. It had the capacity you needed. It had the efficiency you needed. And for a long time, I tried to stay away from trailers and small things. But then I started to see people come to me that had started with, a home built rig, or they started with a trailer or whatever. And then they had worked their way up into one of my trucks. And I was like, man, I'm missing, even though I think the best way, I had the ability to start with a truck. Not everybody does. Right. So let me accommodate that market. And so I started building trailers, next. And then I wanted to build a platform where a guy could show up with a pickup truck and we could literally lift the whole unit and slide it into a truck bed, make the whole thing fit on an 8x4 platform, strap it in, and you could turn a pickup truck into a functional bin cleaner in like 4 seconds. And so we developed our skid. We're patent pending actually on the whole skid concept for the trash can cleaning industry. And so that patent is in process right now. We've been really successful with that skid. I mean, it's gotten very popular. And I drew up designs a while back on putting like those RV jacks that like jack up an RV camper shell, like that you can
Sure.
put in the bed of a pickup, on one so that, a guy didn't have to have a forklift to take it in and out if he wanted to. But I never really had the right buyer for it. And so I never actually built it. And then Brian Cinnamon, Arizona, recently called me and said, "Hey man, have you ever thought about putting jacks on one of these things so I could like take it in and out of my pickup all the time?" And again, one of my thoughts was like, if a guy buys one of these units and puts it in the truck, like, it, people from the outside looking in think they're going to take it in and out all the time, but we know that if you're successful in the business, like you're running 4, 5, 6 days a week, like why would you take it in and out all the time, right? That truck's
Right.
going to be really dedicated to that business. But Brian has a successful business there. He's got this is his 3rd unit. He's growing like crazy. If you guys are seeing any of the stuff he's posting on Facebook, he's putting on 300 something customers a month right now, doing really well. And he said, "Have you ever thought about putting like a jack system on this thing?" I was like, "Actually, I've got it drawn up. I just need to build it." And he said, "Go." And so
Yeah.
so I just had to put it together. And what was really cool about it was we took our skid that we'd already developed and we made like one structural change. Not even structural. We had to add like a bar to hold the front legs of the jack, and everything else kind of just slides in to the skid. So now, anyways, we actually shipped it to him. It's in his truck. I think he's operating it for the first time today.
That's where we'll pause for today. In part 2, we get into what new operators should look for when buying equipment, how small markets can still work, and why private equity may be coming for the bin cleaning industry.
Well, Ben, that's a wrap on another episode of The Route to Revenue. If you enjoyed this episode, we'd love it if you would hit like, subscribe, and leave us old guys a comment about what we did well. And if we did anything wrong, can it and keep it to yourself.
If today's strategy sparked some ideas for your business, don't keep them to yourself. Share this episode with a fellow entrepreneur who could benefit from these insights.
Remember, building a recurring revenue business, it's not about perfection, it's about progress. Take one actionable step from today's discussion and implement it in your business this week.
Want to connect with us between episodes? Find us on Facebook or at our website. We'd love to hear how you're applying these concepts in your own home service business.
And until next time, keep building those recurring revenue streams and stay on the route to revenue.
The route to revenue.
Nice, Ben.